Greetings, friends around the world. This is Dr. Timothy Sakach. This broadcast is going to differ from my usual ones. There is much interest in the Hebrew language. So to help you with your studies of the Hebrew language, I included on the blog a link to a very special and unusual and important website. It's www.ancient-hebrew.org. Now here's why I did this. I found out when the Hebrew scriptures were written, the language gave a different flavor and meaning to the words that we read right now. Just how different requires much research. In 1999, Jeff Benner founded the Ancient Hebrew Research Center and has been active ever since promoting the fascinating study of the ancient Hebrew language. So I asked Jeff Benner to join me, and he graciously accepted. So Jeff, welcome to Lift Up Your Voice.
Well, thank you, Tim. I very much appreciate it, and looking forward to the interview.
Okay, I'm curious, Jeff. What motivated you to study ancient Hebrew?
Well, it kind of started, I guess I got to give you a little background on myself. I was raised in a Lutheran home, attending a Lutheran church, and the Lutheran church is very good about presenting doctrine, but they don't really stress biblical studies. So I never really got into studying the Bible until I met my wife, who at the time was attending Assembly of God Church. I started going to church with her, and I found out that their beliefs were very different from mine, and the only way that I was going to learn what the truth was to study the Bible for myself. Pretty quickly realized in my studies, by using a concordance, that the translators were not real consistent in how they translated the Hebrew words. Just as an example, and it's the one word that caused me to start learning Hebrew, was the Hebrew word nephesh, which in the King James Bible is translated about 100 different ways. And I thought, if I'm going to understand this book correctly, shouldn't I know what the words are within that book? So that kind of got me started on my journey of learning Hebrew. I attended a Hebrew class at a local synagogue, and a friend of mine had invited me there, and that was my first exposure to Hebrew. And a couple of years later, I started finding out that Hebrew was originally written with Paleo-Hebrew, and my research into the ancient Hebrew kind of started from there.
What obstacles did you run into while you were doing your research? I mean, like finding resources and information and things like that.
Well, being a layperson, initially it was hard to find materials. You go to your local library, and there's a limited amount of materials there. I started ordering some books on Hebrew, but there's very little information out there on the ancient Hebrew. When I discovered that the ancient Hebrews thought differently than we do, that meant that the vocabulary was going to be coming from their perspective rather than ours. So I started looking at all the Hebrew dictionaries and encyclopedias that I could to find this information, and there's a limited amount available. Got on the internet first in 1999, which is when I started the research center. And one of the reasons why I started this center was because there was no information on the internet at that time on ancient Hebrew. So again, there was a limited amount of resources available there. One of the other obstacles is the Dead Sea Scrolls. I did not know at the time, but came to find out that there's a lot of Dead Sea Scrolls available to a certain number of scholars, but they have not made them available to the general public or in book form. There are a couple exceptions, and there's some controversy over how those books came about. But again, a limited amount of resources, and the Dead Sea Scrolls are important because they give us a picture of the Hebrew text that's 1,000 years older than the oldest text that we had before that.
I'm curious as to whether their script actually favored the ancient Hebrew.
There are some scrolls, Leviticus, the book of Leviticus, that is in the Paleo-Hebrew, or what I call the Middle Hebrew script, which is very interesting because we always think of Hebrew being written in the modern Hebrew script, like we see in the Bibles, but they were still writing the text in the Paleo-Hebrew in the first century, which means that the Paleo-Hebrew had not died out at the time of their captivity in Babylon. Also, when they did write a text in the what I call the late Hebrew script, which is very similar to modern Hebrew, many of them are in that script. When they came to the name of God, the Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, they would write that in the Paleo-Hebrew. So they did recognize that there was some significance to the name and preserved its writing in a more original state.
Okay, I've got in front of me here a couple of your books. I've got the Hebrew Text and Lexicon of Genesis, which I think is a new one.
Yes, this came out a couple months ago.
And the Ancient Hebrew Lexicon of the Bible, and I ordered another one. His name is one. You want to give us a little background as to what these books could mean to anyone who's doing research in Hebrew?
Sure. For those that are just getting into Hebrew thought, I recommend His Name is One, because it goes into the names of God from a Hebraic perspective. When we use words like God or Savior, we attach modern Western definitions to those words. But instead what you have to do is you have to put your mind in the mindset of an ancient Hebrew, and that's what this book does. It takes those words and looks at them from a very ancient perspective. And how did the authors of the biblical text understand those words? So I recommend that if you're interested in the subject. If you're going to do a little bit more in-depth study, recommend the lexicon for doing word studies. But this lexicon will group all of the words together that are related to one root, which is very, very important because Hebrew is a root-oriented system. Each word is dependent upon the other words and the roots that they come from to help understand the meaning of that word. The lexicon will also define each word within its cultural understanding. Very important to understand that in the Hebrew mindset, words are all concrete words, whereas in our Western perspective, we like our abstracts. The other book that you mentioned, the Hebrew Text and Lexicon of Genesis, is the Hebrew text of the book of Genesis, but then it's for those people who are learning Hebrew who see a Hebrew word, and because Hebrew uses a lot of prefixes and suffixes and infixes, it's hard to recognize what that word is. So what that book does is it has all of the Hebrew words as they appear in the text, in the lexicon in the back, and then it breaks that down for you. It tells you what the prefixes and suffixes are, what the root word means within that.
Now, all of these books are available on Amazon and also, well, actually on some other booksellers too, I noticed, and also on your website.
Yeah, I have links to Amazon and my publisher through my website, but you can go to any online bookstore and order them. You can go to any bookstore in your local hometown. Just give them the ISBN number. If they don't have it on the shelf, they can order it for you.
I feel that we really need to get back to a more sound and balanced existence than we are right now. And I believe that what you're contributing in this is really helpful in helping us focus on that and move in that direction.
Well, I'd like to think so. I kind of feel like more like a messenger. I didn't invent the Hebrew language, but I've discovered some things that I think are helpful in understanding the Bible a little bit better, and my function is just simply to impart that so that other people can also view the text from this perspective.
Well, that's great, Jeff. I really appreciate you taking the time to sit and talk with us and tell us all about it. I really believe that that this is a profitable thing. I will list Jeff's books on my website so that you can actually see them. So again, I want to say thanks, Jeff. It has been a wonderful time. I really appreciate your taking the time to do this.
Well, thank you, Tim. I really appreciate it. I had a really good time, too.
But it's exactly what I was hoping for.
All right, great. Well, thank you very much, Tim.
Okay, and if you have a chance to be out here in Southern California, look me up. I'd be glad to.
Yeah, I should be there late next year.
Okay. All right.